I spun a couple wheels to let Lady Luck decide what amazing build I'd be playing next, and this time I got Shield Charge, Acolyte of Chayula. What? Well, nothing is impossible, right? I create a character, picking the monk, and our zero to hero journey begins. I wake up on a beach and fight my way over to the bloated miller. I whack him with a staff until he falls over, and I'm rewarded with a skill gem for my troubles, which I do absolutely nothing with, since I can't get shield charge until level 6 anyways. I have a look at the new passive skill tree, and considering I'm starting up here and the majority of fizz damage and armor nodes are on the warrior side of the tree, I'm not exactly sure what my plan is here. I'll just grab some damage nodes for now and figure it out on the fly. In Clearfell, I discover the joys of sprinting as I'm being chased by an angry mob. It feels so good to be able to run for my life like this. With a zone reset and a few well-placed punches to the face, Beira falls over and I head back to town to sell off my spoils. While I'm there, I make a few purchases. A hardwood targe so I can block, and a simple spear so that I can use the disengage skill, which lets me backflip away from my problems. This will pair nicely with shield charge. I also equip a one-handed hammer I found. It's better than nothing. The Devourer doesn't stand a chance against my mighty hammer swings, and I'm rewarded with our first unique of the run, Earthbound. Earthbound is a low-level staff that can cast Spark auto-magically when you kill shocked enemies, which is definitely not a reference to a game about a small kid with a hat that may or may not have turned into a pop culture figure due to his inclusion in a certain popular melee fighting game in the mid-2000s and beyond. Or is it? In any case, it's useless for us on this run. I'm also rewarded with a couple support gems, and I grab Stomping Ground and Rapid Attacks. Stomping Ground is going to be a core part of making shield charge feel good in the early game, as it sends shockwaves of damage out based on half of your weapon's attack damage. Then I went to the Grellwood, walked around a bit, and yeah. The servers are already giving up and we're only like 20 minutes in.
Simply lovely.
Eventually I was allowed to play again, and while trying to get a very cinematic shot in the middle of a pack of undead zombies for your entertainment, I nearly die, but managed to scramble away with my life. Unfortunately, when I touched the next obelisk, I was completely surrounded and experienced my first death of the run. Please don't let this be an omen of what's to come. I revive, get my revenge, and wake up the Rust King, mashing that default attack like it's my life's purpose, and after a couple tense moments, he crumbles to dust. He drops a level 3 uncut skill gem, which I immediately turn into shield charge, though I realize now I've made a huge mistake already. I don't have enough strength to equip it. Damn. I check the shops for plus strength items just in case, without any luck, though I do grab these 10% move speed boots because move speed is pretty much the best stat in the game. Looks like shield charge will have to wait just a little bit longer. I enter the Grim Tangle and run into an overwhelming pack of abyss monsters, meeting my demise once again for the mere sin of existing in their presence. I make my way deeper into the twisted mess that is the Tangle and come face to face with the Rotten Druid, a chunky fungus with the ability to teleport to the other side of the arena when it's as inconvenient as possible for you. With some smart use of active block, a few well-placed default attacks, and a pinch of patience, I take him down. I'm rewarded with some loot, sure, but most importantly, this Exile Staff MTX, which I equip on my hammer to make it look like a little lantern. This thing is lit. Sorry. I reached level 8, putting my passive points towards strength, and now I can finally use shield charge. After moving my Stomping Ground and Rapid Attack supports over to it, I try it out on the first pack I see, and it's fine, I guess. I mean, the AoE on it is pretty good compared to my basic attacks, of course, but it feels pretty slow. Oh well, that's a problem for future Schwingy to deal with. For now, I'm just happy that my days of hitting one enemy at a time with my hammer are over. I'll mention it now since it's as good a time as any, but shield charge and all damaging shield skills really scale with your shield's armor value as opposed to your weapon's damage. So throughout the rest of this run, I'm going to be trying to get shields that have as much armor as possible to scale up our damage to the moon and beyond. Shield charge also deals more damage based on how much distance you travel, so you kind of want to charge at the enemy from as far away as you can to get max damage off of it. And this is where disengage fits in. Since you can shield charge and disengage right after making contact, the animation cancel the ending of your shield charge, but also to create that gap you need to get full damage. Dodge roll is also a good way to animation cancel your shield charge, by the way, especially when you realize you're going the wrong way, which totally never happens to me. Back in town, I use my limited gold supply to gamble at Finn's for a new shield. I'm hoping for something with more than 12 armor. The bar is pretty low. Well, 29 is legally better than 12, so I guess I should be happy, although my tooltip shows that my damage has gone up from 8 to a whopping 9. Incredible. I head back out there and face off with Asinia, and my damage is kind of laughable if I'm being honest, but somehow I pull through. Upon our defeat, she drops our very first Comet Reliquary key. Yo, let's open that up and see what we get.
I love that video, man. No bitching podcast, unemployed cringe lord. No complaining, just playing the game and having fun. Yes, I love it.
That fun employed podcast farm before League Start really was next level this time, wasn't it? Back to the run, I charge into some monsters over in the Mausoleum, where I get another level 3 skill gem which I turn into Infernal Cry. Infernal Cry is a war cry that empowers future attacks to do extra fire damage, and it also has the added benefit of making enemies combust on death. Naturally, I use this to make my shield charges much stronger because God knows I definitely need the help. I have a 1v1 with Draven, and shield charge my way to victory. Back in the cemetery, I go visit Lachlan, who has a meltdown and decides I'm the enemy now. I try to put him out of his misery with the tried and true shield charge plus disengage combo I've come to appreciate, but dude's got a hard counter up his sleeve. Damn. I try again, and this time I'm much more careful about not locking myself into long shield charge animations, and after an eternity of kiting, he goes down. Next, I make my way into Freythorn, where I got incredibly lucky and had the best ritual layout I have ever seen. I mean, look at this. I could literally finish a ritual and trip over the next one as I'm leaving. In any case, I have a long, drawn-out fight with the King of the Mist. But eventually, he bursts into an eclipse of moths. Yes, that's what moths are called when they're in a group. Trust me, bro, I just googled it. The King of the Mist dropped a gemmed skull, granting us plus 30 to our previously non-existent spear meter and giving us our first reservation skill, which I transform into Warbanner. Warbanner will help us with our single target damage, granting us 25% attack damage and attack speed for a cool 6 seconds whenever we place it down. I head back to town and gamble for a new shield, and get lucky with this 78 armor shield on the first try, practically doubling our damage. Amazing. With this brand new shield and Warbanner now at my disposal, I go bring the pain to all my enemies in the final stretch of Act 1. First, I chase down Crowbell and bash my shield against his head until he can't get up anymore. I'm rewarded with a book. Then I recover Una's lost loot for her, where she gives me another copy of the exact same book I just read, and suddenly I have enough points to grab all of these attack damage notes on the tree. Awesome. I gamble once again for another shield upgrade and end up with this one which I can socket an iron rune into, giving it even more armor, putting it at 95. Nice. In Ogum Village, the Executioner tries to chop my head off, but I just charge my way into him, stunning him a whole bunch and killing him on the spot. This build is really starting to come together nicely, and we're not even done with Act 1 yet. I ram my way through the Mana Ramparts and kill the fire-breathing Candlemas. Upon death, he drops his essence. Ah oui, essence of Candlemas. Ah, mais ça sent bon! Baguette. Which I can use to obtain 20 more max life, permanently, bumping my life total up to just shy of 400. Not great, but also not bad. With the statue taken care of, Count Geonor is next. And oh boy, let me just say that it's very clear to me that he doesn't like the way I'm just charging at him from across the room over and over. I keep using my basic combo, consisting of using Infernal Cry to empower my next couple attacks, followed by a disengage to get some distance, and then shield charge in for some big damage. I'm honestly surprised at just how effective this combo is. Maybe Shield Charge Monk will turn out to be more than just a meme. When Count Geonor finally takes his last breath, he drops our very first subscribers orb of the run. Now, I love all my viewers equally, but I especially love the ones that take our relationship to that next level. Anyways, Act 1 is done. Let's head on over to the Red Sands of Act 2. So we're stranded in the desert and there's a band of hyena centaurs we need to take out. No problem. On the way over to the mob boss, I kill some abyss dudes and get our very first Exalted Orb. In case you're new here, Exalted Orbs are pretty great early on because they're essentially the main early game currency players use to trade with. And yes, I am going to be trading in this run. After 12 years of playing PoE1 with an incredibly outdated trading system, you can bet your ass I'm going to be trading the moment a modern trading system is implemented. I cannot wait to try it out. Well, not even 1 minute later, it starts raining Exalted Orbs in this area because I find 2 more in the same zone. Eventually, I run into Wrathbreaker. Now, I could pretend that this was a really dramatic and close fight, but that would be lying and I ain't no liar. This fight was easy and Shield Charge made quick work of him. Now that Wrathbreaker is out of the picture, I'm finally able to get on a caravan where I meet the lovely Asala, who sends me on a wild goose chase across the country. My first task on her checklist is to rescue some lady called Risu, who's been imprisoned for, well, honestly, I don't know because I skip all of the dialogue, but regardless, we have to go save her. So I head into the mod mod in Quarry where I kill some abysses, open up a chest, and get a level 5 spirit gem out of it. Cool. I turn this into Herald of Ash immediately and turn off Warbanner to make room for it. While I can't have both reservation skills on at the same time with just 30 spirit, I can alternate between them on the fly whenever I want to. So I'll use Herald of Ash for clearing and Warbanner for bosses. As long as I don't forget, it's a win-win. I find the engineer who kidnapped our damsel in distress and face off with her with -1 fire res. What could go wrong? Oh, that could go wrong. Okay, so before I try again, I go to town and buy these boots with 14% fire res, and remember to actually switch to Warbanner, and now when I come back, Shield Charge gets the job done. Boom, first errand taken care of. Back in town, I identify my loot and notice these pretty amazing boots with 10 move speed, 34 life, and 13 fire res. These will come in handy. I head into the Trader's Passage next, where I unseal Balbala. She teleports all over the place and tries to suffocate me with what I can only imagine is a seriously bad case of flatulence. I hold my breath and bash her with my shield repeatedly. She goes down and drops an important item for us, the Jin Barrier. This will let us enter the Trial of Sekemas later on, where we can get ascended and become the Acolyte of Chayula we are destined to be. Sweet dreams, Balbala. We'll catch up with you later, and speaking of sweet dreams, wouldn't it be nice if we could all get as much sleep as her every night? Well, I've been sleeping way better than usual lately, and it's all been thanks to this video's sponsor, Manta Sleep. Manta Sleep offers premium, high-quality sleep masks that block out 100% of light, so you can sleep in and get as much shut-eye as you need after having stayed up late grinding maps. Hell, maybe you went full degen and it's 10 in the morning and you desperately need some sleep. Well, trust me, these comfy sleep masks paired with a healthy dose of elephant tranquilizer are the answer. They've got a wide variety of models, each with their own features, like the cool mask if your face tends to run hot, or my personal favorite, the sound mask, which has built-in Bluetooth speakers to help me drift off to sleep while listening to my favorite podcasts. Click the link in the description to find the perfect mask for you, and remember to use code Schwingy10 at checkout for 10% off your next order. Thank you to Manta Sleep for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to our shield charge shenanigans. Next up, I run through the Halani gates, hooking up with Asala in the process, I wish, and fighting Jamanra for the first time. I'm starting to run out of intriguing ways to describe how I simply shield charge into bosses until they die now, so I'm just gonna say, bonk, he dead. I get a new shield, once again through gambling, and while exploring these little hidden rooms, I drop a unique pair of gloves. Dodri's Tenure. These are great spellcaster gloves early on, but pretty useless for us. I put them up for sale though for 1 Chaos Orb. Who knows if they'll sell. In the Lost City, I have a few close calls with a couple very spooky Abyss mobs, but one of them drops our very first Chaos Orb, and the chest at the end gives us an early Lesser Jeweler's Orb. Awesome, I'm gonna use this right away on my shield charge so I can add in an extra support. Shield charge plus rapid attacks plus momentum plus stomping ground is what I've landed on. And try the new setup out against Azarian, who does not stand a chance. Then, while fighting the Colossus, I sort of forget to get behind his sword during the screaming move and it nearly kills me. But somehow I stay alive and finish him off. Asala adds yet another item onto the unending list of chores I have to do for her, reminding me of the lists of chores my mom used to write up on weekends, and I hated those. And now she wants me to go find her a mammoth tusk. Okay, fine. So I interrupt the resurrection ritual and fight this duo consisting of a skeletal mage and his emotional support elephant. The elephant tries to stomp me to death while the tall skinny guy does some cheap magic tricks, but they just can't seem to coordinate enough to take me out. With the mammoth tusks retrieved, I go back to the caravan, at which point Asala politely asks us to blow her horn. After that disappointing clarification, I decide to relieve some stress via gambling a new body armor, and I get this guy with 34 spirit and 20 fire res, allowing me to have both Warbanner and Herald of Ash active at the same time. At this point, I'm feeling pretty strong, and the Trial of Sekemas is calling to me. So I go meet Balbala once more, giving her the barrier we picked up when beating her up, and in we go. I make it all the way to the end of the floor without any trouble and wake up Rattlecage from his rocky slumber. I dodge all his big blasts and go in for the charge whenever it's safe, but I also can't help but notice that shield charge is occasionally just running right past him for shits and giggles. As if playing shield charge monk wasn't bad enough, now my character is literally trying to run away from his problems too. The rock falls apart and I get to ascend to the Acolyte of Chalupa. The Acolyte of Chayula, otherwise known as the Chonk, is pretty unique in that it's still one of the least popular ascendancies after 3 leagues despite it getting a rework this patch. That's impressive. The first node we go for is Waking Dream, granting us the skill Into the Breach, letting us see little remnants of the void around us that we can pick up to leech health, mana, or even grant us additional chaos damage for a short duration. It's arguably the strongest node the Chonk can bring to the build. Now that we have that sorted out, we head on over to Keth, where we happen to get our very first sale. That's right, the Dodri's gloves we found not that long ago sold for 1 chaos. Still using the old trading system because apparently you gotta be in Act 4 before you can access the new one. Kind of a pain, but whatever, it's all good, I guess. Now that we've popped the trading cherry for the character with that sale, I figure it's all systems go and buy this pretty massive shield upgrade with 220 armor for a measly 1 Exalted Orb. That should make a noticeable difference in our damage output. I climb a whole bunch of towers and reach a dead end with Torgal the Defiler. He's a big undead giant who gets a kick out of reproducing moves he sees on WWE SmackDown. Thankfully, I'm prepared and have no trouble whatsoever dodging his big body slams, although he catches me off guard when he reveals to me his real passion, Sunday roasts. We go again, and this time I try to avoid becoming dinner, and he goes down. With Torgal defiled, Asala has only one more victim on her hit list, Jamanra. So we board the Dreadnought, kill some Ferrodin fanatics, and end up on his ship. Or is it a carriage? This is confusing. Anyways, here's a quick look at her gear and passives. A mace with +2 to melee skills to buff up shield charge, that shield we bought with 221 armor and double resist, a crappy helm with life, rarity, and res, the armor with spirit and fire res, some low damage gloves, a trash tier level 4 belt, these kinda decent boots with move speed, life, and fire res, and some simple jewelry. Also, my passive tree looks like this, entirely made up of travel nodes and attack damage. I step into the arena and our little dance begins. Man, I am really glad I got lucky and somehow wound up with 42 lightning res going into this fight, because this was honestly the easiest Jamanra fight I have ever had. Every shield charge would hit for about like 1k damage, and his attacks didn't really hurt me. Apart from his slams, of course, but yeah, even those I decided to just tank my way through them. Shield Charge Chunk is making this look easy. Who would have thought? With Jamanra defeated and Asala finally giving us permission to leave the house, it's time for us to head on over to the lush jungles of Act 3. So after everything I've done for Asala, she has the audacity to drop me off in the middle of a swamp. She's getting a 1-star review, that's for sure. I trudge through the swamp, meet some new faces in town, and immediately I'm prompted to take care of some more local nuisances, as if it's my freaking job or something. So I venture forth into the jungle and meet up with a trader who offers me a couple nice deals that I scoop right up. First off, these gloves with life, cold damage, and rarity, as well as these boots with 20 move speed and a bit of fire res. I also grab a new core skill we're going to be adding to our rotation. Shield Wall. This skill is really exciting to me because it looks freaking cool. You place down a large stone wall in front of you that can block enemies and projectiles, and if you shield charge into it, it literally explodes in a giant AoE. Add in our Herald of Ash, and just like that, we now have both powerful single target and really strong clear. As far as supports are concerned, I eventually kitted out with Armor Break to have an easy source of breaking armor, and Magnified Area for an even bigger AoE. I go test it out against Silverfist, and things are looking really great until suddenly I deserve that. We run it back and holy hell, this combo absolutely slaps. Another valuable piece of the puzzle gets added right after, Fortifying Cry. This is another shout, like Infernal Cry, that buffs the damage of my future shield attacks, and since both Shield Wall and Shield Charge are shield skills, the synergy is just too good to pass up on. A few moments later, I head into what I assume New Orleans is like and have my one-on-one with the Bog Witch. I'm not gonna lie, this was a pretty frustrating fight, in part because she's hard to hit with shield charge when she's flying all over the place, but also because she raises these giant bones from the ground that literally interrupt my shield charges. Lame. My reward for knocking the witch off her broom once and for all? 30 spirit and an uncut spirit gem, which I turn into Overwhelming Presence, making nearby enemies more vulnerable to my stuns, something the build is just naturally leaning into. Then I had arguably the easiest Chimera fight of my life. I still had to chase the sucker around a little bit, it's not like I one-shot him or anything, but compared to previous builds I've played, he wasn't annoying this time. And just when I thought Chimera was easy, my newfound might completely decimated Blackjaw. I mean, I was able to just stand there and face tank him until he died. Shortly after that, I took down the Val's laser defense mechanism, and then, catching me completely unawares, I ran into two enemies so rare they're only spoken of in whispers. Stink Stink the Bold and his mini-me, Stink Stink proper. That is all. Next up, I venture deep into the Molten Vault, where I allocate the notable Marathon Runner on the passive tree, granting me 12 extra sprinting speed, and now I can safely say that I am speed. I also catch up to this guy, and yeah, he gives me a run for my money, since he's gotta be like the least melee-friendly fight in the game, with him just casually chilling in a literal lava river. I get a little twitchy and accidentally shield charge right in. Back in town, I go through all my stuff I found, and would you look at that, a new pair of gloves with 70 me life, fizz damage, lightning res, and the new 19% of armor applies to LE damage mod. I cruised through the rest of Act 3, destroying my archenemy the Queen Filth, beating up Kazuli, and decimating Viper. I wish every Viper fight was this easy. I cannot believe how much damage this combo is packing, but hell, I ain't complaining. Anyways, with Viper thoroughly smashed, I wish, it's time to go get my second set of Ascendancy nodes via the Trial of Chaos. I clear out room after room full of laser-wielding Triceratops and little red goblinoids and eventually end up in the boss room where the Chimera waits for me. The fight was, one-sided to say the least. With the trial complete, I was able to get my second set of points where I picked the Inner Turmoil node, making it so that whenever I inflict ailments on enemies, which I'm doing with Ignites regularly, I gain a stack of Volatility. Okay, Volatility is a little bit hard to explain, so class, listen up, this will be on the test. The first thing you need to know about Volatility is that after 4 seconds of having it, it explodes and deals damage to you. 100 physical damage to be exact. It also stacks up to a cap of 200, and that 4-second timer resets every time you gain a stack, meaning that yes, you can theoretically gain 200 stacks of Volatility, which when the timer runs out will do a whopping 20,000 physical damage to you on the spot, and let's be real, probably kill you. Thankfully, this node also makes it so that we're immune to this explosion. Not bad. Now, as if the thought of self-destruction wasn't enticing enough, we haven't even gotten to the best part yet. Basically, for every single stack of Volatility that manages to detonate after 4 seconds of not gaining more stacks, you will then gain a 10-second long buff called Volatile Power, granting 1% of damage as extra chaos per stack. Yes, that's right. If you manage to blow up 200 stacks, you will now deal 200% extra damage as chaos for 10 seconds. That is insane. Anyhow, this isn't going to be a game changer right now because I'm not gaining that many stacks. But once we're in maps and there's way higher monster density, I think this is going to add up real fast. There is one small important detail to how Volatility works that I completely overlooked, but I'll save that explanation for later. I mean, why spoil the surprise? Now, before going into the final fight of Act 3 with Doriani, I wanted to show you guys an overview of my gear and my tree. But I forgot. So here's a cute picture of our cat Jinx instead. Alright, Doriani, let's settle this. Phase 1 goes by really easily. I mean, he spends a long time just hovering, and I'm not really sure why he's not going into Phase 2 yet, but anyways, Phase 2 is where things got a little spicy. Maybe I was feeling just a little bit too comfortable there. The sudden burst of adrenaline coursing through my veins woke me right the hell up, and I made sure not to die for the rest of the fight, shield charging my way to victory. This marks an important point in our adventure. Everything beyond this point in the campaign is completely uncharted territory for me, and I have no idea what to expect other than the inclusion of boats in Act 4 and some form of filler content to bridge the gap between 4 and the endgame. Without further ado, let's grab a ride out of here and pay the Karui shores of Act 4 a long overdue visit. Oh, would you look at that? We're in Kingsmarch, a quaint little town we spent a year rebuilding in PoE1. We catch up with some familiar faces and meet some new ones like Angie over here, and she's my new favorite because holy crap, it finally happened. After 12 years of playing Path of Exile, PoE2 finally has a fully functional in-game asynchronous trading system, and she is our one-way ticket to it all. I invite her to my hideout where I can start listing items for sale after converting a couple extra premium tabs I had. This is freaking awesome. I put up this triple damage quiver I found for 20x, hoping that someone will be interested since Lightning Arrow Deadeye is the meta build of the league. Well, 20 ended up being a bit ambitious. It eventually sold for 10. Not bad. I also buy my first shield upgrade with this new system with 327 armor, double resist, and that mod that makes 32% of armor apply to elemental damage for the small price of 4x. A massive upgrade. I go meet Makoru, another waifu type, and she introduces me to the Karui archipelago, where I can choose to go pay different islands a visit in whatever order I see fit. We set sail for Kedge Bay, and I'm led off on the shore where I meet all kinds of fun new threats, like this big guy and his goons, and this massive army of abyss mobs that stun me to death. Eventually, we run into another damsel in distress, who goes by the name of Freya. Of course, we have to rescue her, and to do that, we're gonna need to find a bloke named Captain Heartland and ask him for some Verisium. And between you and me, Something smells fishy. I shield charge my way through pack after pack, desperately looking for the captain, instead finding this dope pair of boots with 20 move speed, 91 life, armor, and fire res. Nice. Eventually I do find the captain, and he's not nearly as friendly as I had hoped he might be. In fact, I'd go so far as to say as he's being outright unfriendly even, especially when he decides to nuke me back to back without warning. I come back, try again, and this time I don't let him push me around. Half a minute later, the Verisium ore is ours. Speaking of, when I try freeing Phrecia with the ore, things go south real fast. Omniphobia shows up out of nowhere and I try to deal with him. Our very first Divine Orb. Let's go! With this sudden influx in wealth, I deem it acceptable to spend an unethical amount on the following upgrades. First, I buy a new body armor with 300 armor, 80 life, double res, and 41 spirit. Then a new spirit amulet with life, res, and rarity. And finally, this brand new lineage support gem called Uruk's Smelting over on the currency exchange market, which I socket directly into shield wall after having used a jeweler's orb to give it another socket. Lineage supports are basically unique support gems that you can only have one copy of in your whole setup at a time, and Uruk's Smelting looks pretty cool since it helps break armor more easily and causes enemies to take up to 20% increased physical damage permanently. With my mini shopping spree over, I went back to the open seas, ending up on a sulfuric island where I was pitted up against the aptly named Blind Beast. He barely put up a fight, and upon death, regurgitated a bile-soaked tome, granting me 2 more passive points which I put into melee damage. I explore the island even further and end up in the center of an active volcano. The last place I want to be, really, although it does look pretty rad. I beat up a pair of Rattlecage wannabes, get a small loot explosion from a chest, and meet the head honcho of the island, Krutog, this big, fat, lumpy dude who just steps on people, I guess. He falls over and I rescue another dude called Matiki. Welcome aboard, sailor. He tells me about this cute little spot he wants me to visit, the Eye of Hinekora. So off we go. Once there, I meet an old acquaintance of mine, Navali. Placing my trust in her words, I take a sip from the Well of Passing. It tastes primarily like chamomile, but there's a slight hint of MDMA. Also, it kills me. Bruh. Except, hey, would you look at that, my body's laying there, but I'm still fully in control over here. Now, how about that? So I run around in the halls of the dead, putting Karui spirits to rest, and entering my first abyssal depths, where I die to a groundy gen I couldn't see. Classic. I kill some more waves and get inked as a reward, granting me 5% to all resistances. Forever. I catch up with Navali once more, and she performs a little party trick, making her little monkey assistant Yama about 10 times bigger, and also incredibly deadly. Honestly, I was not prepared for this. Now I regret that I never actually finished Black Myth Wukong. We go again, and this time I actually managed to avoid the giant purple nuke attack and quit monkeying around. We meet Hinekora, the goddess of death, or something, and we're introduced to the new Trial of the Ancestors mechanic. Except it's not actually in the game yet, so we're kind of just left hanging. Bleh. With the Eye of Hinekora fully explored, our next destination is the Abandoned Prison, where I quickly realized that this is just a variation on the Eternal Labyrinth from PoE1. Neat. Also, it's flooded and getting around in here is very annoying. While within these disturbing prison walls, I reach level 50, willingly submit myself to solitary confinement, and kill legions of forgotten inmates. And it all wraps up with a nice fight with the Prisoner. I don't know who this guy is, but he has some actual mechanics where I had to pull some levers in the corners of the arena to use ballistas on him a la Monster Hunter, and it was pretty sweet, all things considered. Next, I take out some giant chickens and visit Wakapanu Island, where we get our very first Greater Jeweler's Orb, as well as face off with a killer land shark. He's like Jeff, but not nearly as cute. He drops a shark fin, a quest item I was never able to figure out what the hell I had to do with it, so I eventually threw it on the ground. I also enter a damp cave and meet Diamora, the Siren. She's basically Merveil from PoE1, but better in every single way. Cool arena, cool mechanics, and she's got a great set of lungs. What's not to like? At this point, I had found 4 scattered pieces of a treasure map and assembled them like the legendary pieces of Exodia, and when presented to our ship's captain, the X marks the spot landed on this little tiny island called Plunderer's Point, which ended up just being a tutorial for Expedition. Not my favorite mechanic. I'd take an Exodia over an Expedition every single time. In any case, with Plunderer's Point blown to smithereens, along with my hopes and dreams of ever sending Seto Kaiba to the Shadow Realm, there's only one island left unexplored, Arastas. And you know what they say, all roads lead to Rome, or in this case I guess all currents lead to Rome. I'm not really sure, but the point is, wow. Arastas is pretty much what if ancient Rome, but no women allowed? Why you would want this? I'm not sure. So this guy leads us to his chapel where he tells us to wait while he gets his superior in here, which was obviously all just a ploy to trick us, because I heard some funny noises coming from outside, and oh my god, this guy Kanu, who's been rowing us to shore at every island, just betrayed us. God damn it, Kanu. We break through a barrier and all hell breaks loose as there's chaos in the streets.
It's chaos in the streets!
Bullshit.
Eventually, I get to the top of the mountain cliffs and this hooded guy from the purple KKK just straight up assaults me. Now, I've since heard that this is one of the harder fights that's been added to the game, and that you have to really pay attention to the mechanics while fighting him. Like, there are these priests hanging out on the rafters and you have to kill to weaken him. Yeah, no, I didn't even notice those guys. Our bread and butter gets the job done once again. I head deeper into the island, exploring a dig site, when suddenly I find myself face to face with the first Herald. This guy's giving off Act 4 final boss energy if I ever seen it. Except, wait, what the hell? Why is he so easy? And now he's immune? Excuse me, what the hell is going on? Eventually, he does a giant thunder slam, followed up by what I can only assume is a maze I'm supposed to navigate through, except in the heat of the moment, I don't even realize he's done that, and all of a sudden my health takes a massive hit and I get knocked to the ground. I legit thought I was dead. I get back to my feet and put him out of his misery. Or so I thought. He gets back up, starts floating up in the sky when out of nowhere, this Kirui dude called Tavakai, who up to this point has kind of been a dick to us, not gonna lie, slams into him and slices him in half. Respect. With the final boss of Act 4 taken care of, it's time for the hooded one to stick those 3 weapon pieces we'd been collecting together and wait. Tavakai, what the f are you doing, brother? Oh shit. It's not over, is it? So we set sail for his homeland, Nakanu, and wow, things are looking pretty bleak over here. We take out hordes of corrupt Kirui, and at the end of the island, there's this huge hut where Tavakai is waiting for us. It starts out in the hut. He's just swinging his axe at me while I smash him, I wish, with my shield, and when he gets low, he injects himself with some Val steroids and takes it outside. I follow him out there, continue to show him how juicing will never beat years of intense training, and then he freaking evolves again. Not 1, not 2, but 3 different phases. What are they gonna do in Acts 5 and 6? I mean, how many phases is too many? Is it 4? Is it 5? I don't know. Okay, so this was actually pretty goddamn easy, but I'm gonna chalk that up to this build being freaking OP, unless that the fight itself isn't good. With Tavakai slain and finally coming to his senses, this marks the actual end of Act 4, completing another chapter in our journey as we start exploring more uncharted territory in the form of the Interludes. So the Interludes are these 3 little mini acts with new bosses where you revisit some areas you've previously been, but things are spookier now, and they serve to bridge the gap between finishing Act 4 and starting the endgame, completely removing the cruel difficulty. Also, you can do them in whichever order you see fit. I'm excited to hop to it, but first I've got a little bit of build cleanup to do. Remember like 20 minutes ago when I said this? There is one small important detail to how volatility works that I completely overlooked, but I'll save that explanation for later. Well, now's the time for the big reveal. Volatility has a hard cap on how often you can get it. You cannot gain more than 1 stack of volatility per 0.1 seconds, which sounds not so bad on paper, but when your build is entirely built around doing slow, massive hits that clear the entire screen, you only get 1 stack per hit. So at most I'd have 5 or 6 stacks of volatile power, which doesn't even compare to a single stack of the purple Chayula flames I can collect in terms of raw damage. It's really quite sad. I tried turning to Google and the wiki for a solution, but the more I would look into it, the more it seemed like volatility is only good for builds that can hit often, and that's just not what we're going for. So what to use instead? Well, I'll keep it simple and grab the all remnants are purple Chayula flames node, as that'll just give us more consistency in our chaos damage boost. I mean, why not? I also discovered how to use the in-game trade search function, which was kind of tucked away over here in this little menu, or you could just press / and that'll bring it up too. Using the magic of the in-game trade, I bought myself a massive shield upgrade with over 600 armor for 1 chaos orb. And I make a few other purchases while I'm at it. It's just too darn convenient. First, a helmet upgrade with lots of life, rarity, crit chance, and double res for an alchemy, a plate belt with life, strength, and cold res, a new mace with +4 to melee skills, stun buildup, and stun duration, which I'm honestly not even sure these actually work with my shield attacks, but I assume they do, a pair of gloves with fizz leech so that I can have some form of life recovery, which I am in desperate need of, as well as a new pair of boots with 30 move speed. With my build feeling stronger than ever, I start off with the Augum Interlude, which has me revisit the dark forests of Act 1. While running around a farm, I interrupt 2 femme fatales, engaging in some witch-on-witch action, and activate some giant monoliths, summoning a cool new dual scythe wielding boss, who actually gave me a bit of trouble, probably because he got possessed by one of those pesky spirits for some reason. I get some omen drops over in the Black Woods, which are basically just the Wild Woods from PoE1, and enter Holton, where I run into a friendly ferryman who sells a bunch of different runes. This is awesome, and I honestly wish this NPC showed up in like Act 2. That would be great. Enter the Holton Estate, an annoyingly square map with lots of doors leading to dead ends, and face off with Thane Wulfric and Lady Elswith, the roots of the problem here in Ogham, allegedly. Next, I head into a different prison where I meet the Warden. He looks pretty damn cool, but honestly, shield skills are OP and he goes straight down to hell. And that's the first interlude taken care of. These are really small mini acts, and I gotta say, I like them a lot. I'll miss them when they're gone. The second one I go for is the desert. Dudes, I'm just going in order, like, come on. I catch up with my first crush Asala and then head out into the wastes. This area is huge. That is all. I get a lucky annulment orb and accept the Molten One's gift, granting me 5% increased max life. Big. I keep pushing through the desert, encountering the Cobra Lord, a big dude with a snake as his arm or something. Is that what's going on here? I can't really tell. Anyways, he gets wrecked like all the others before him, but you know who doesn't get wrecked? These 3 Abyss dudes that all have the mod that makes nearby allies immune. Real fair, GGG. This did get patched later on though, actually. I keep exploring and then these doors open and this guy's all like... But little does he know, he doesn't stand a chance. Here I just wanted to show off the massive AoE that Herald of Ash gives us when fighting these crazy swarms of Abyss monsters. It's pretty freaking nuts and very satisfying. Also, I got level 62. Hooray. The final boss of this interlude is Asmati, and I have no idea what he does because he pretty much just got chain stunned to death and I didn't have to do any mechanics. So the third interlude has us in this very fallsy camp, quite appropriate for this time of year here in Montreal, and right off the bat when shield charging through the woods, I one-shot an essence mob and he drops an annulment orb. Awesome! Little do I know, these are actually quite valuable and continue to gain value as the league goes on, it seems, so the longer I hold on to them, the better, in a way. Then I have a duel with this Asmari chick and get another Gemcrest skull which gives us 40 more spirit forever. You love to see it. I enter this frozen lake looking area which looks really nice, and then while trying to gobble up my loot, I die to an abyss on death effect. Classic. I check out this cave, fight a yeti, and run into this familiar bird that was in the Trial of Chaos. It like encases itself in ice, giving me all the time in the world to shatter it. I trek through a snowstorm and find this mysterious elevator that leads me down into some sort of tunnel system. At the end of the path, I face off with Blackjaw 2.0 and wait for these doors to open. Very patiently. Next thing I know, I'm in another Val Temple looking area and I reach what is unquestionably the boss arena where I have a little 2v1 with a couple blood priests, Zelina and Zolan. It was a bloodbath, but not in the way they were expecting. I demolished them, and just like that, the interludes and therefore the campaign is done. This was by far the smoothest campaign run I've had so far, and it's on the Acolyte of Chayula of all things. I never would have thought it possible. Is Shield Wall just a little bit overpowered? Maybe. Or maybe it's trade that makes getting powerful gear too easy. I don't know, and honestly, I don't care because I'm having so much fun right now. This is the Atlas. If you've already played the game and beat the campaign, you know all about it already, but in case this is somehow the first PoE2 video you've stumbled upon, here's a quick rundown. Each of these little nodes are maps that you can travel to using waystones. Waystones are items you find while killing monsters, and they can have modifiers on them that increase the difficulty and rewards of the map you put them into. Also, they come in 15 tiers. There's actually a hidden 16th tier that you can get from corrupting your waystones, but we're not going to be worrying about that today. Each tier represents a new difficulty, making monsters stronger. Our goal right now is to travel through the Atlas in as straight a line as we can so that we can find 3 special maps called Citadels, which each have bosses that will drop 1/3 of a key, known as Crisis Fragments, that we can take over here to the Burning Monolith, and that'll let us fight the big boss of the game, the Arbiter of Ash. This is going to take a long time, so here we go. We start mapping, killing map boss after map boss, getting to level 67, and here you can see my skill tree. It's really nothing special, just focus on generic attack damage, skill speed, fizz damage, and movement speed for the most part. And obviously, it's getting the job done. Right off the bat, I pick up a new body armor for 2 exalts with tons of life, 55 spirit, and dual res, and I slam it with an exalt of my own, giving it that armor applies to Elimod, which is a huge hit. This chest piece is fantastic for us, and I'm gonna have a real hard time finding a replacement. I find a Jinbaria, which will let us get our 3rd set of Ascendancy points, and immediately decide to give it a shot. We enter the trial and make quick work of the first 2 floors, but floor 3 was rough. I make it to the final room, but I'm stuck starting the Scorpion fight with only a measly 378 honor. This is not looking good. The Scorpion actually lands a jab on me and brings me down to 162. Uh-oh. Fortunately, he's not long for this world, and we prevail, allowing us to ascend and get our third node, and I pick Grasp of the Void. This just makes it so that when we dodge roll, it'll leave behind an illusion of us that blows up and pushes enemies back when it gets hit. Not a game changer by any means, but I could see it keeping us alive in a pinch. We keep mapping, going up the tiers, completing towers, using boss tablets on said towers so that we can get more boss maps and guarantee higher tier waystones to drop off of them. Nearly one-shotting bosses left and right, putting quality on our skills as we find GCPs, and even doing some of the new special mini-boss maps that can drop these cool new lineage supports. I get to level 76 and then have my first death in a hot minute, while fighting off some Abyss mobs in the T7 map. Why is it always Abyss? I keep pushing through the tiers, killing boss after boss, first T7, then T8, then T9, and eventually I decide to buy another round of upgrades. First off, this time lost ruby with 4 really good stats on it for 10 exalts. In case you're unfamiliar with them, time lost jewels are pretty special. Unlike normal jewels, these ones don't grant you stats straight up. Instead, they give the nodes surrounding the jewel socket you put them into a whole bunch of extra mods. So if you find a really spicy place to put your jewel, like this socket up here for example, you can grab all these nodes around it and they'll do what they normally do, plus the cool mods the jewel gives it. In this case, I'm getting a ton of rage generation from this jewel, which is almost always going to keep me topped up at 30. And 30 rage outright just gives us 30% more damage. It's actually pretty damn nasty how good this 10x jewel is. I also finish off this ring I picked up for a couple X by throwing some greater exalts on it, landing the Fizz Leashed as mana and 43 lightning res. This ring was already an upgrade without those 2 mods, but with them and the catalyst I threw on there, holy hell, this thing is probably worth multiple divines at this point, and I don't think I'm ever going to be replacing this bad boy. Next, I grabbed this belt for 10x. It's nothing special, but I needed the res. And finally, this level 80 20x shield with 42 cold res, the ever important armor applies to Ellie mod, and most importantly, 1000 armor. I need to wait a couple more levels before I can equip it, but this is going to be a huge upgrade. Also, at this point, I decide to try the Chaos Res node for my Ascendancy instead of the Void Illusion dodge roll thing, since I feel like having more Chaos Res could come in handy more often than the little illusion guy. I'm not really sure which is better, but I kind of feel like I'm just choosing between meh options. Anyhow, after the splurging we just did, it's time to test it all out. I get back to mapping, killing thousands upon thousands of monsters, finding an omen of Abyssal Echoes which sold for 32x, and dying right near the end of the Bluff Tower map. One of the worst maps you can die in because when you come back, you have to run all the way back to where you died. And it is as long a sprint of shame as it gets. Yo, GGG, can we please get some checkpoints up in here? Not much later, I get to level 80 while starting a breach, which means I can finally equip that new shield I had bought, and oh my word, that just gave us over 30% more damage. This is gonna make Abysses so much easier to handle, and hey, look at that. It's one of those rogue exiles that's been abyssified. I kill her, and then she comes back to life as a Lich Queen, and I one-shot her. But also she dropped this unique diamond, the Heart of the Well. Unidentified like this thing is worth a couple divines at least, but I am definitely gonna ID this and unveil its mods myself. So I bring it to the Well of Souls, and it didn't go very well. It ended up becoming some weird poison and pierce jewel that I really didn't think anybody would want. Although surprisingly, it did eventually sell for 1 divine, after like 2 weeks. Not great, but hey, it's better than nothing. In any case, I'm really in no position to be complaining when my build can do this to T11 bosses. This shield is cracked. Up till now, I've been hoarding any breach splinters I see, and I finally have enough to open up a portal here at the Realm Gate to face off with Zesht, the breach boss. The Twisted Domain is more than just a boss battle though. It works basically like one giant breach, where you have to keep pushing through the area while both the ground you stand on and hordes of monsters are spawning in, and you gotta keep up with them and not get left behind. For some builds, this is actually harder than the boss at the end, but thankfully shield charge is pretty sweet from ability, so even though it takes a couple minutes to get to the boss, we don't run into that problem ourselves. After picking up the monster loot comprising of several catalysts and a bunch of breach rings, 1 for each finger, I go head to head against Zesht, we that are one. It's actually surprisingly tanky. Each of my hits are doing anywhere between 150 and 300,000 damage, but only chunking its life bar bit by bit. And I actually have to dodge its mechanics, which, you know, for the record, I think is a good thing. You should have to learn boss mechanics IMO. But yeah, with some schmoovin' and groovin', I take it out and am rewarded with a sense of pride and accomplishment. And also this pandemonious worth absolutely nada. I got some pretty serious FPS drops in this next map, but also a Duresso's Passion Lineage support gem, which I throw on my war banner, having the amount of glory it needs for each use, making it twice as useful. I level up again and put my skill point into Spiked Shield, a notable that gives us more damage based on how much armor our shield has. This node alone is like 7 to 10% more damage on the build. Well worth coming down here for. Next, I unknowingly entered what would be the best map I'd encounter on this entire run, where we get our second divine drop of the run, let's go, and not even a minute later, a perfect Jeweler's Orb. Damn, this map was nutty. I popped that Jeweler's Orb on Shield Wall so that I can give it Vanguard 2, which makes us a tiny bit tankier whenever we use Shield Wall, allegedly, but to be honest, I never really noticed the difference. I kill a giant Abyss Queen and then enter a map that had something like 10 breaches in it, which I couldn't complete. This map was way too spicy and was the very first map that gave the build any semblance of an actual challenge. It was really fun though, would do it again. After that humbling defeat, I figured I may as well look into getting more upgrades, especially considering I was able to liquidate that divine and I now have a pretty fat stack of exalts burning a hole in my pockets. First order of business, some new gloves with a tier 1 fizz damage roll, tier 1 life leech, 31% lightning res, and 181 life, for a whopping 40x, making them the most expensive piece of gear I've bought so far. I also grabbed these boots with 35% move speed, 147 life, 32 cold res, and a bunch of stun threshold, which I'm hoping will mean I'll get light stunned less often. Getting stunned is pretty annoying and does happen relatively frequently when I'm dealing with abysses. Finally, I grabbed this 20x solar amulet with 128 life, 12% CDR, 33 fire res, and a cool +2 to melee skills. It's not perfect, but it'll do. I keep mapping, hunting down those citadels, and pushing through the Waystone tiers, getting to level 84 and quickly after that 85. Destroying any tier 15 map bosses I run into, like this Scythe guy over here and Baby Germanra, who gets absolutely smashed. My god, even I wasn't expecting that kind of damage, and I've been playing the build for 30 hours at this point. Eventually, I get fed up with getting stunned, so I try and find a solution. While not perfect by any means, I pick up the 4 Utopia Charm for 17x, which gives me stun immunity whenever it's active, like every stone charm, but it also makes me defend with 200% of my armor, basically doubling my armor whenever it triggers. As far as I'm concerned, problem solved. I get to level 86 and anoint my +2 melee skills amulet with heavy weaponry, giving me damage, stun buildup against enemies, and 15 strength, which, believe it or not, I am struggling to keep up with strength requirements for this build. The travel nodes alone aren't cutting it, and this will help out quite a bit. Also, in case some of you made it this far in the video and are like, dude, you're a monk, why the hell aren't you going energy shield or evasion? I am struggling enough as is to have enough strength through my shield and my skills. Imagine if I also had to have both dex and int. I'd need an Astramentus or something for that. Could be done, and I definitely would recommend it over the armor route I've gone for, but I just don't have the budget for it right now. I do in fact have enough to afford this new mace though. +5 to melee skills, 73% increased stun buildup, and 28% stun duration, with a desecrated mod on there that I get to unveil, all for 5 exalts. Let's take it to the Well of Souls and see what we get. Hot damn, 59% increased damage against enemies with fully broken armor. I think this mace is best in slot for our build, not gonna lie. I should also probably mention that I've completely given up on using the Stomping Ground support since this damage is reliant on my mace's damage, and I just don't want to deal with that. At this point, I decided I wanted to fight some more of these pinnacle bosses that I haven't really prioritized before. I'm talking Olroth from Expedition and the King of the Mists from Ritual. So I started focusing on these mechanics in my maps, and a couple dozen maps later, I had enough splinters to attempt both. First up, Olroth. I had never seen this fight before, so I really didn't know what to expect. Turns out it's pretty straightforward, or at least when you have this much damage it is. I did accidentally trip on a rock and I thought I was for sure done for, but I managed to get back up on my feet and bring him the pain. My reward, a Fallen Shield. This shield is amazing in PoE1. In PoE2, it's worth a solid 5 exalts. Dope. As for the King of the Mists, well, I'll let this clip do the talking. Yeah, I had no idea what I was doing in this maze and died in the same spot not once but twice. The wisps kept leading me to what looked like dead ends, so I figured I was supposed to not follow them unlike everywhere else in the game. But no, I just suck and couldn't follow them properly. On my third attempt, I figured it out and the King of the Mist got absolutely slapped with a crazy 1 million damage hit. Holy damage, Batman, that is wild. Must have been a crit. No crazy loot or anything, but I'm still glad I managed to take him down. A few maps later, yo, another perfect Jewelers. That's going straight onto my shield charge, which I decide to corrupt while I'm at it, and I get really lucky and hit the +1 level on it. Let's freaking go. Can this run get any better? Actually, hold my beer. I fight the Act 4 boss again in one of those special Jade Isles maps, and after waiting around for a minute while he contemplates his life decisions, I brutalize him and he drops not a Rakiata's flow. I had you in the first half, didn't I? I get to level 89 and notice a moment of Zen on my map, which would be really cool to visit. However, check this out. See how the dotted yellow line doesn't actually connect to this gray node here? Yeah, this is a BS. But it's okay because what happened next more than made up for it. So I found this shield, right? I don't even know when or how, I just noticed it in my inventory after some map and was like, oh wow, this has a lot of potential. It's got 170 life, 44 to both cold and fire res, and T1 flat armor on it, and it's on the best base already. So I hit it with a preserved rib in hopes that I could unveil a really high armor percent roll, and when I took it to the well and unveiled it, I was able to put on 68% increased armor. Well, that's not ideal, it's only tier 4, but still, this could be worth something. After some quality and with a greater iron rune socketed in there, it sits at 984 armor. Slightly less than my current shield, but it does have life and a ton of res. Still also has an open suffix though, so I kind of go crazy and let myself get inspired by all those Reddit crafting posts I've been seeing and break the bank trying to turn this into the ultimate shield. I convert all my wealth into exalts and pick up an omen of homogenizing exaltation so that I can guarantee a res of some sort as my last suffix, or alternatively it could hit that armor as LE mod, which would be great too. Now to ensure that I hit a high tier version of either of those mods, I also splurged on a perfect exalted orb, which costs a whopping 512x right now. I have never spent this much currency on a craft before. This is both thrilling and mildly terrifying. When I'm ready and pretty sure of what I'm doing, I activate the omen and use that perfect exalted orb on it and get 22 chaos res. That is sick. I am now in possession of a pretty insane shield, probably worth something like 5 to 10 div if I had to guess. But the good news is that now that I see how good this thing is, I am no longer satisfied with that tier 4 increased armor mod I unveiled on there. I know we can do better. With an Omen of Light and an Ancient Rib, we could practically guarantee a high armor percent roll there. It would cost me about 5 div to try, but I think it would be worth it. There is a small problem though. I'm broke. Putting the shield aside for the time being, because I don't really need the resistances, I'm capped anyways, I figured now's as good a time as any to get my 4th Ascendancy done. Trial of Sekema, here we go again. I cruise through it. I mean, just look at these floor 2 bosses and how they both got 2-shot. And the Scorpion didn't last much longer either. Floor 4 was annoying, as it always is, but I made it to the final boss, and I mean, he just got rolled over. And the loot? Oh my god.
Holy shit.
A divine and this unique relic worth 3 div. Wow, that will go a long way towards crafting that shield again. Oh yeah, I get to ascend too, grabbing the cool dodge roll thing again because there's nothing else worth getting. I get back to the grind, still trying to find those citadels, and oh, would you look at that. There's one right here. Red means Doriani. I just gotta make my way over there and hopefully I can take him down without much fuss. I think we got this. On the way over, I get another lucky divine drop off a small pack of tentacles. That was random. And then I find a sneaky as hell moment of Zen tucked away under this Citadel Pyramid, which I find hilarious because goddamn this Atlas Pathé needs some work. When I entered and spoke to the Nameless Seer, it took me a little while to realize what I had just found. Holy shit, a last lament. This is a build-defining crossbow that grants its own skill and can reload its own ammunition automatically, and most importantly, it looks sick as all hell. So while I know I can't use it in this build, I really want to use it in a future build, like 0 to hero, but I have a Last Lament and I still have to spin the wheels to decide what class I play. What do you guys think? And also, what should I call it? Anyways, either way, I'm keeping this beauty for myself. Next up, the Stone Citadel, where I encountered Doriani once more. I went in a little unsure about how this would go, but yeah, after I one-shot his first phase, I knew it was over for him. First Crisis Fragment acquired. 2 more to find, and speaking of, yeah, the next one is right here. Jamanra, I'm coming for you. But first, I've managed to save up enough Divines to try our hand at perfecting that shield there, so let's give it a shot. I convert all my div into Chaos Orbs and pick up an Omen of Light for 116 Chaos, which will let us safely remove the 68% armor mod when we use an annulment on it. We also grab an Omen of Abyssal Echoes as well as an Ancient Rip. The Abyssal Echoes Omen lets us re-roll our Unveils if we wanna, giving us 2 attempts at getting what we want. And as a reminder, we want a lot of increased armor. Tier 1 is the goal, but I'll settle for Tier 2. Well, actually I'll have to settle for whatever we get, but fingers crossed it's Tier 1. So I activate the Omen of Light and use my Annulment Orb on the shield, and poof, the Desecrated mod is safely removed. Next, we activate the Omen of Abyssal Echoes, slam the shield with an Ancient Rib, guaranteeing a higher tier mod on there, and take it over to the Well of Souls, where we reveal a 99% increased armor roll on the first try. Hell yeah. Putting it at 1148 armor, this shield is officially much better than the one I've been using. And I crafted it myself, which is always fun. I feel like GGG really nailed crafting this league. Hats off to them, well done guys. With my new and improved shield equipped, it's time to wrap this show up. I head over to the Copper Citadel, finding another perfect jewelers on the way, as well as spotting the last Citadel off in the distance. Nice. I fight my way through the Citadel and reach Jamanra. If not for his immunity phases, this would have been over in seconds. That's 2 fragments taken care of, only 1 more to go. And on the way over to the Iron Citadel, did they buff the rates on these or what? Finally, I enter the Citadel where something troubling happens. Oh no. I wasted my only revive on an Abyss pack. I really hope I can make it to Geonor without dying again. I carefully shield charge through the halls, making sure to avoid the abysses as much as possible, and finally reach his private elevator. The fight starts, and oh my god, that was close. 58 HP. Holy shit, that new shield might have just saved me a couple extra hours of Citadel hunting. Thank god. I brush it off and get back to giving him a beating. With all 3 keys now in my possession, there's only one thing left to do. What's that? There's a new boss I haven't fought? Oh. So apparently, my informant tells me there's a new Abyss boss I can fight. I just need a Kulamax invitation. Well, despite entering every single Abyssal Depths I've encountered, I never got one of these, so I'm gonna have to go and buy it. I pick one up and make a leap of faith. This fight is weird. You get to build a bear a unique ring by picking and choosing between these statues, but like, it doesn't say anywhere what each of these does, so you kind of just don't really care, I guess, or at least I don't. Once you've beaten him up 4 times, you get to do the real fight, and well, I'm not really sure what the hell is going on here. We've got the GGG special, green on green on green, and it's really hard to see anything. Somehow, I pull through, and I'm rewarded with junk. That's okay, now we can fight the Arbiter. So I head to the Burning Monolith, punch in my keys, and it's time to duel with the Arbiter of Ash once and for all. Here goes nothing. And just like that, the Arbiter is defeated and this run is officially complete. This was so much fun. huge thank you to all channel members for your ongoing support. It really motivates me to keep making these. And if you've been enjoying these Zero to Hero style videos, please do me a solid and let me know in a kind comment. Comments like these are literally an energy source for me. I consume them while I edit. It's a problem. And speaking of problems, I decided to vol or no balls my insane shield in hopes of an extra socket. And here's how that went. Well, that settles it. See you guys in the next one. Let's friggin' do this. That's how I warm up. Ugh, does anybody else do that? Anybody else warm up by going?